G'day gamers, Ranger Tony here with another Baldur's Gate 3 tutorial video. Today we're going to look at a Ranger creation guide. Let's jump on in. So before we get too far into the Ranger creation, I want to just mention that this is still based on the early access version of the game. Some stuff may change as the game evolves. I don't expect too much to change, but just want you to be aware of that. The other thing that I want to say is that the Ranger has a bit of a unique position in Baldur's Gate 3 because, and this is not really a spoiler, but as of the early access version of the game, there are five companions that you can have in the game. They're listed right here, in fact. They are your 5 companions. And they are a rogue, a fighter, a wizard, a cleric, and a warlock. So out of these 6 classes in the game, the only class that isn't represented by a companion is the Ranger, which to me means it's the ideal character to play because you then have access to all of the different character types, all of the different classes in the game just by, you move a couple of these guys in and out of your party as you need them. So anyway, let's have a look at the Ranger. If you see my other builds, I prefer to start with the class first and then race, origin, attributes, and skills. So we're going to do it in that order. The Ranger. So Rangers are unrivaled scouts and trackers, honing a deep connection with nature in order to hunt their favorite prey. So, unlike the other classes here, you have some options at the start to sort of narrow down what sort of character you want to be. You have probably the most customization at the start of everybody else. Some of the other classes do have a little bit of customization, but you have these 2 sections here of favorite enemy and natural explorer that allow you to really finesse what you want to do as a Ranger. So let's look at those. Your favorite enemy. If you are a bounty hunter, you gain proficiency in the investigation skill and you learn Thieves' Cant, which I haven't seen used yet in the game, but if it's there, I'm sure it will be used at some point. And also, creatures that you restrain have a harder time escaping. So there is a knockout mechanic in the game, and so it may have something to do with that, or there may be some other way that you can restrain them with ropes or whatever. I haven't seen that yet, but that's what the bounty hunter can do. If you've seen my playthrough where I'm playing Ranger Toby, he is a bounty hunter. Keeper of the Veil. The Keeper of the Veil specialises in hunting creatures from other planes of existence. So you gain proficiency in Arcana, and you can cast protection from good and evil. Now, what's the advantage of this? Technically, the Githyanki and the Mind Flayers are creatures from another plane of existence. I don't know whether they're counted in this or not, but that is a worthwhile reason. And also, if you're talking devils and things like that as well, they would come into that. So that may be a good choice for you. Mage Breaker, which is the default, you basically are a witch hunter. And you gain proficiency with Arcana, again, like you did with Keeper of the Veil, but you also gain True Strike, which gives you an advantage on attack rolls against a creature, and you use your wisdom for that. The Ranger Knight, which I think will be a popular one for some people. You are sworn to serve a crown or nation and bring its foes to ruin, so you gain proficiency with the history skill, but you also gain heavy armor proficiency. Now, I don't think it will help you with stealth, so you're going to have to lose your stealth ability with the heavy armor, but you can wear heavy armor, which Rangers normally cannot. And then finally, there is the Sanctified Stalker. And this is that you are a hunter for a holy or druidic order, and you hunt down their enemies. You gain proficiency in religion, and you also gain the Sacred Flame cantrip, which is the same that clerics can get as well. So this makes you a little bit like a druidic paladin sort of thing. I don't know. The sorts of things that I feel any one of these really fits well with the whole ranger stereotype, and it depends on what you want to be. But I think Sanctified Stalker is a really, really good one. Keeper of the Veil can be useful, as can Magebreaker. The Bounty Hunter and the Ranger Knight are also good options, and I'll probably end up playing around with all of them at some point. Then you can choose from Natural Explorer. In there you can be a beast tamer, so you get a bond with animals and you can cast the Find Familiar spell as a ritual. I haven't used this yet, but you know, it's another thing. This is not your animal companion though. You can still get an animal companion later on, so you don't have to take that to get an animal companion. So don't necessarily think that is reliant on that. Urban Tracker. It says that you are an expert at navigating the wild within the city, and you gain proficiency with Disguise Kit and Thieves Tools. So, as I said previously, my starting ranger that I've played, Ranger Toby, he is a bounty hunting urban tracker. Now, this doesn't really fit a lot with the some of the dialogue in the game, which assumes that as a ranger you live out in the wilderness, not in an urban area. But, you know, it's certainly an option that you can go with. And then there's 3 Wanderers, Cold, Fire, and Poison. And they all basically do the same thing. They give you resistance to those elements, and you only take half damage from them. My recommendation would be take Fire or Poison out of those 2, at least early game. Those are the more often seen types of damage that you might want to protect against. So I think at this point, Magebreaker and Fire is the options I'm going to choose here, but they're not set in stone. What else do we see about the Ranger? Well, this, of course, is misleading. You actually start with 10 hit points, but because we have a Constitution of 13, we get an extra hit point. So we're going to get 10 hit points per level, plus whatever our Constitution bonus is. Now, we're not going to get those. You're not going to get exactly 10 hit points per level. You get all of your hit points at the first level, and then it becomes a dice roll from then on. But that's where it's going to go. You get saving throw proficiencies for strength and dexterity, which are useful. You get light and medium armor proficiency. You can use a shield and simple and martial weapons. So you can basically use all weapons. You just can't wear heavy armor, but you can wear all other armors. Now, be aware you start the game with leather, and you have to use leather or padded armor if you want to do... No, actually, you have to use leather if you want to do stealth. Nothing else, or no armor. Nothing else will actually... maybe chain shirt as well. Everything else puts a penalty on your stealth rolls. So be aware of that. So that's the class setup, right? Now let's look at the races. What races work well with the Ranger? Now, you can be very flexible on how you play your Ranger and even how you build it, what attributes, what abilities you use. But generally, you are a dexterity-based character, right? So that should be your primary attribute. If you're going to use weapons, you really should be using finessable weapons because then you'll get the most out of it. But if you wanted to go a strength-based Ranger, you could. Nothing's stopping you. Particularly, I would look at going the Night Ranger in that case. And then later on, when you pick your weapon specializations, you can pick appropriate things there. For now, we're going to look at the standard dexterity-based one. What races work well with that? Well, there's a few races that have dexterity bonuses, and we're already on the first one, of course. Elves, they get a +2 to dexterity. Their dark vision and their fey ancestry and keen senses make them great as rangers. But rather than high elf, if you go for the wood elf, you get all of that, but then you also get fleet of foot so that you can walk even faster. You get Mask of the Wild so that you're even better at stealth, and you get a +1 at wisdom, which is your secondary attribute as a ranger because it's what you use for your spells. So taking a wood elf is probably the penultimate ranger. Drow do work very well as well. They get a +2 to dexterity. And, you know, the cantrips that you get as either a Lothsworn or you get the same one, or a Seldaran Drow, are a good benefit as well. Humans can do all right. Tieflings can do all right. Githyanki can do all right. Dwarves will do all right. Half-elves, with your ability to increase 2 scores, will probably be better than any of those other ones that I just mentioned. The other really good race, though, is Halfling, and that's the reason why I chose Halfling for my Ranger Toby, because they get a bonus to dexterity, and you also get the lucky attribute. If you go for Lightfoot, so the lucky attribute, I'll just go into that. If you roll a 1 on an attack roll or an ability check or a saving throw, you can re-roll the dice. That's why you're lucky. If you re-roll the second time and get a 1 then, well, then you've failed and there's no thing. But you get that lucky. I haven't had to use it yet in my Ranger Toby playthrough. At least I'm not aware that I've used it, but it is a nice feature to have. The Lightfoot halflings are naturally stealthy, so that's really nice, but you can only move 7.5 meters per turn rather than the 9 of most other races or the 10.5 of the Wood Elf. The charisma bonus isn't going to do much for you, but that's fine. If you go for Strongheart halfling, though, you still get your lucky, but you now get a resistance to poison and bonus to Constitution, which is a good option as well. So all of those are good options. Really, Wood Elf is your best, though. So we're going to take that. Now, let's look at what origin we can choose. There's only a few that really stand out as being good, in my opinion, for the Ranger. The Folk Hero, because it has animal handling and surviving, but it also fits from a role-playing point of view, if that's what interests you as well. So consider taking that. Noble is okay, but from a role-playing point of view, it's not quite as pertinent, although, there was a story I read in the 90s from the Folksy Islands, where there was the King Hendrik, I think his name was, who was a ranger. But that was based on stories that were written from the D&D 1 and 2 days, where the ranger was a little bit different. Hermit, from a role-playing point of view, fits very well with the ranger, because, quite frankly, most rangers in role-playing games are sort of shown to be sort of hermits, living by themselves in the woods, protecting an area from bad guys, monsters, etc., or often traveling by themselves, scouting out monsters and all that sort of stuff. Outlander is another really good one. It's probably the best one, I think, in general for the Ranger. Athletics and survival are good options to take there. Soldier, of course, because you're martial, you're a martial class, so that will work well. Urchin, if you want to add a little bit of the rogue, is another way to go, but from a role-playing point of view, it doesn't really fit quite as well. So we're going to take Outlander. So we've done class, we've done race, we've done origin. Let's look at our abilities now. So this recommended point buy isn't too bad. There's a couple of things I want to fix up on it, though. So the first one is I don't want a 0. I don't want a penalty in anything. And intelligence, I'll get to it in a minute, but intelligence is one of those abilities that some of the critical skills that you're going to use in the game, and you can't get someone else in your party to make those checks for you, unfortunately. Unlike things like Pathfinder Kingmaker, where it just says, well, you have someone in your party who is really high in intelligence, they will make that check for you. No, most of the time the checks are going to be you. So I don't like to have penalties on any of them because of that. So we dropped the dexterity back to 16, which is still a +3, and that allowed us to fix that up. The other thing that I would consider doing is taking 1 more point out of wisdom, which gives us 2 points back, and putting that into constitution, getting you up to 14, giving you a +2. So that now means that we'll have 12 hit points to start rather than 11. Doesn't seem like much, but it all helps in the end. And you'll have an extra 2 hit points per level. Always going to be very useful. And it doesn't affect your wisdom too much. You're still basically at the same bonus level. I think that will work really well. So to finish it all off, we'll look at the skills. You get 3 skills as a ranger. They've said animal handling, investigation, and nature. I'm going to take it out of animal handling, even though that is a useful skill. But instead, I think it's better in insight. Insight, investigation, nature, these are things, and perception. These are things that you do use a fair bit when interacting with people and the environment. About the only other things that would be good to have, which you could take through your origin, would be deception and persuasion. Persuasion in particular is one that is fairly prominent from what I have seen. So yeah, that is basically it. We've picked everything. All we haven't done is our appearance, so we won't worry about that. When you're playing this character, my recommendation is I normally, if you know me from the other games that I've played, I'm very much a ranged character. I like using bows. I like attacking from a distance. But when I do play rangers, I'm not adverse to getting in there and getting a blade out and doing some damage as well. So just be aware of that. I will do that. And in this game, I feel you need to do that a little bit more. At least for the first few levels of the game, I have found that most of the battles that you come up against, you're either outnumbered or outclassed or both. So what I mean by that is outnumbered, you often come up across a battle where, there are way more opponents than you have allies. And so that's going to make it hard for you. And standing back and shooting just doesn't seem to get enough results. The other thing is that when I said by outclassed, you're often against opponents who aren't just a melee character that's going to run in and try and hit you, like is in a lot of other games. There is a large smattering of spellcasters and archers and things like that in the game. So the best solution I find there is to get in there and get in front of them, because once you're in their face, they can't cast against you as easily, they can't shoot against you as easily, and that's what's going to keep you alive. So I personally am feeling that the better way to build the Ranger at the moment is to basically look at building a melee Ranger, but don't neglect your bow. In fact, keep your bow in your hands at all time when you're walking around, because then you have the ability to go into stealth, and or even outside of stealth, you can often, if you can see an opponent before combat starts and you know that you need to attack this opponent, you can take a shot, you hold control, you click on them, left control, you click on them, and it will attack them and start combat, and you're getting a shot in before combat has started. It can be a great way to get that little bit of an edge. And even if you get ambushed, if you have your bow in your hand, you can make that decision in that first round. Is there an advantage to me staying here and taking a shot at someone? Let's say there's a spellcaster over there, particularly if you see that they're coming up soon in the initiative order. There's a spellcaster over there. If I attack them now, we might be able to, get an advantage. So keeping your bow in your hand is a good idea. Having said that, switching weapons doesn't seem to take up any of your actions in combat. It seems to be a bonus action. So you can do that without any real penalty. Other games like Pathfinder Kingmaker, for example, made that a penalty to switch weapons, which is why I often built characters that never switched weapons. They had, if they were going to be a ranged character, they kept their bow in their hand and never changed it. But in this game, I am much more often switching between bow and blades a lot more freely, because I feel it works a lot better for this character, for this particular game. So anyway, that's my Ranger creation guide. I will have some detailed build guides at some point. I hope to, once I can get those organised. In the meantime, leave any comments down below, and I will see you for the next video. Thanks a lot. Bye.